pretty balanced. Yeah. Okay, let's go over a couple of bits that been sent my way over the last week or so. So, a photographer reached out to me a while back. I've spoken to him a couple of times, and he's based in the US. Got good stuff. I wouldn't actually mind hearing his thoughts on the way he works. So maybe I'll try and convince him to come on the stream. One thing that he was kind of asked to work on recently was this piece of kit that is muted. Yeah, piece of kit that essentially enables you to use autofocus on manual focus lenses, right? So it's got a piece of tech in there that's looking through the lens and it's working out like the focal points, and then it's talking to a manual focus lens to enable you to use autofocus on manual focus lens, which is kind of wild. There's actually a bit of tech going on there. I mean, probably something to do with LiDAR or something like that, which is measuring the distance and the bounce back, and then translating that to the lens itself. As you can see, the kit there. So it's basically an attachment that you would use. So it looks to be, according to this, is like there's a collar, right, that goes here. There's a collar that goes where the camera is, in between the lens and the camera, and then that seems to be taking the data that it's receiving, and then that's feeding it to the lens itself, and it's able to kind of focus the lens here on the side, which is very cool. Yeah. You saw that today on TikTok. Someone used it on a Helios, and it was freaking amazing. Yeah. I mean, the guy that I was talking to is obviously a very, very smart guy, and he was involved with this one, but pretty damn interesting. I mean, like for us still shooters, it's not. I mean, it would be nice, right? Especially for those of us getting older and our eyes are going and all that sort of shit. Like, manual focusing is tough. Let's be honest. But for video, because this is moving, right? He granted the bike's on a stand here and that sort of stuff. But as far as I can tell, the camera is moving around there, and it seems to be focusing. I don't know how much of it's sped up and that sort of stuff, but it seems to be relatively quick. So very, very cool. And like Jamie said there, some of the old Helios lenses, beautiful quality lenses. And one of the reasons why people just don't use them is because they're manual focus, right? So it would mean that a lot of these older lenses have a new lease of life. So I don't know anything about like how much this costs or anything. I think it's just in development at the moment. Yeah, he sent it to me a couple of weeks ago. So he really, so it's only just come out. Yeah, so I don't know whether it's like a Kickstarter or something or products. Yeah, I didn't get too deep into all of this, but very cool. Yeah, I would certainly be interested, very, very interested in that, depending on the price and how adaptable it is. Like, how many cameras can you use it on? How adaptable is this ring? Because I doubt you could have a lens converter here as well, because that would screw up the measurements. So I'd be kind of curious. Yeah. So what Jamie says here, what I saw would link to the Sony's eye tracking autofocus. Really, Jamie? Yeah, I wonder. So that would only work with Sony's, basically. Yeah. Oh, Anders put the message back. I would never do anything in Photo that I don't have the skills to do in Affinity Photoshop. So Anders is talking about his mindset with using the AI software. And he's saying that I would never do anything in Evoto that I don't have the skills to do in Affinity Photoshop. Interesting. Okay. But you're relatively, you're relatively skilled anyway, Anders, right? So, when you're saying you wouldn't have the skills, so like just putting just a white background portrait of somebody in like a haunted house at night with blue moonlight coming in, all that sort of stuff, like you wouldn't do that because you don't have the skills to do it. I'm just kind of curious as to what the trigger point is for you. Like, what wouldn't you do? Yeah. Jimmy says it was just the example I saw. It's not limited to just Sony, or at least at the moment. Yeah, eye tracking. I mean, I guess many of the cameras do have eye tracking now, and there's like future eye tracking. So, like, is it the Nikon Z camera or something like that it takes a picture of where the person is gonna be when the actual file is captured. So if they're running towards you, right, like football player running towards you, like they're coming at a decent clip, and then you take the picture, you're focused on him, but there's a delay between, a very small delay between you pressing the button and the actual image being captured. It takes into account that they've moved slightly, so it focuses on where they're going to be, which is wild. Yeah, which is absolutely wild. Yeah. So look, I will. I'm interested on this. I need to speak to him some more and see what other details he's got. I'm interested on the cost of that. I mean, it's going to be, I presume, many hundreds of dollars, but in the video world, it's nothing. You know, it's absolutely nothing. I did see this. A couple of you guys sent me this as well. Mind the Color. We've spoken about Mind the Color products in the past. A couple of you sent me this, which is kind of a new product that they've put out, which is the MTC, which is Mind the Color Chroma Warp. And this is specifically a plugin for Photoshop, which is a lot of I think the previous one was that as well. And we had a play with some of the previous plugins from MTC in the past. I think they sent one over, and I had a bit of a play with it on stream, and like super powerful, like very, very powerful. These are very, very powerful tools. You know, these are not for the Evoto users. No disrespect. But you know, this is for people who want a lot more granular control than just TikTok my face for me, respectfully. So yeah, then they put out a video and that sort of stuff. Like, it seems pretty powerful. The previous one, there was this spider chart thing they had that you could kind of pull these around. And essentially what this is doing is it's saying that you can specifically target colors within an image, and it's very, very good at only adjusting those images. So the example they give is like the closest thing is hue saturation. You can go in there and adjust the reds, but it adjusts, you know, a little bit of the oranges, a little bit of the yellows, and that sort of stuff as well, right? Whereas this is looking at perceived brightness. So it's like HSL is the normal one, that they've called it HSP, which is hue saturation and perceived brightness. So it's able to look at a hue and saturation value and determine all of the kind of brightness variables and only adjust that. So pretty powerful. Yeah. Hey Paul, how you doing, mate? In the middle of a shoot. Good luck, man. Anything good? Anything exciting? Anders says, I mean, everyone can drag a slider, but if you actually know what you're doing and why, you have a better chance to get good pictures. Anders, I 100% agree with you, right? And that comes to my point about I think if you're the person who has to retouch the image with the bad skin, right? You go, Jesus Christ, it took me an hour to retouch that girl's face. Like, I don't want to do that again. How can I kind of avoid that in the future, right? And as a photographer, you kind of learn the hard way that you go, right, look, I need to change the way that I shoot that so that this is less work for me in the long run and that sort of thing. So, you know, I agree with you, and I think what Terry mentioned it as well, right? It's about a development of style. Like, we're kind of, you know, this AI software is taking away that development of style, like you growing. And look, I know Jake's, you know, old guy, he's, you know, banging on about, you know, move with the times, Jake, AI software, saving you time and all that sort of stuff. I get all of that, I do. I just think that if you had to retouch that girl's skin, which I've had to do in the past in the studio, you learn how to take better pictures, right? I'm just saying, right? Because it's just going to be easier for you in the long run. So look, I definitely agree with you, Anders. I think you need to know what you want before, you know, you start pushing and pulling the sliders around to then hopefully just accidentally fall on something that looks good, right? Speaking about this, which is why I was kind of a little bit late today, as I was speaking with a good friend of mine. We're kind of talking about this, and, you know, people at the top of their game, right? And I was talking to a model a while back who was on a movie set, right? And she was like an extra on the movie set and that sort of stuff. And she was going, "Oh my God, it's just miserable, man. It's just, oh God, it's not fun." Like today, the director insisted that the actor moved the coffee cup from this table to this table like 37 times, right? And look, you can go, oh my god, that's ridiculous. It's insane. Like, come on, like that's madness. Just move the cup, get the shot, and like move on, right? Now, what's going on there really is that the guy who's directing that, and he's seeing that, he has a vision of what he wants that coffee cup moving to look like. Right now, you may seem, or think that that's just neurotic and ridiculous and overkill. And look, people like David Fincher are renowned for this, right? The guy behind, the film Seven and Fight Club and all that sort of stuff, and a truly remarkable director. But you just look up, BTS on the girl with the dragon tattoo, and like he's just absolutely fastidious because he has a clear vision of what he wants, right? And what Anders is saying here is that, look, it's all very well you moving the sliders around, but as long as you know where you're trying to get those sliders to, is going to make you a better image maker in the long run, rather than just opening up an image and just moving stuff around. Oh yeah, that looks cool, right? It's you having the growth as an artist to know the difference between good and great, right? And I think that the great artists have an idea in their mind about what they want to achieve, and are single-minded in making sure they achieve that idea, even if it means moving the coffee cup 36 times. Right? I know that's not going to resonate with everybody. I know some of you are going to think that's madness, but I promise you, some of the greatest artists alive and dead today were an absolute nightmare to work with. Not because they're dicks, but because they had a clear vision, and everybody else is, be damned if you get in the way of that. Let's have a look here. We can just, it's only a 2-minute video, I think. Just have a quick look at what's going on here. Tell me if this is too loud.
Hello everyone, I'm Marco Livotto. I'm a photographer, retoucher and trainer in photography and post-production. In this video, I want to introduce to you the latest plugin of the Mind Color family. It is called MTC Chroma Warp. MTC Chroma Warp is a plugin that, unlike other products on the market, introduces completely new features, like working modes that are not available in Photoshop.
Thanks, Jamie.
If I had to explain in a few words what this plugin is for, I would simply mention its name, Chroma Warp. It is used to distort color, not in a negative sense. On the contrary, MTC Chroma Warp allows you to transform one color into another while leaving the surrounding ones intact, even if they are very close to the color you are working on. The plugin succeeds in this endeavor for several reasons, but the most important are as follows. The first is that it works internally in LAB without you having to worry about the intricacies of this color model. And it is well known that LAB is the color model of choice when you have to make big changes on the color. In addition, it uses...
So LAB color there is I very rarely use it, but L stands for the lightness, so you're really just dictating the the brightness, luminance of the image, and then the A and the B are the two color values. We can have a look in a minute. I think it's like red and blue and green and magenta or something like that, just on a curve. But the reason why it's so heavily used is because you're able to do so much with color without affecting the luminance of the shot, right? Which is where we can struggle with curves, right? Because if you're in the red curve and you're like, oh, I want to add more red, well, you're also brightening the image at the same time. So this is why the LAB is kind of favored for that, is because you can make color adjustments without adjusting the luminance.
This is a new brightness formula that allows you to achieve far better results than others. The color model used is called HSP, and the P stands for perceived brightness. And the difference compared to the more well-known HSL and HSB models is absolutely striking. The Photoshop adjustment closest to this panel is hue saturation, but the results are demonstrably better and easier to achieve with MTC Chroma Warp. For this reason, I have prepared several tutorials divided into two areas. Those in which I illustrate the principles on which the panel is based, and those in...
So here, for example, he's kind of adjusting this blue, which is like very similar to the other blues, but he's showing that you can adjust that specific type of blue or that specific color without having any kind of bleed effect, which is very difficult to do typically in Photoshop. Like I said, the closest thing is hue saturation. You can kind of do it with the feathering, but yeah, a little bit of a fuss. So,
in which I applied to real cases, showing how we can intervene on photographs, even solving complex problems. All that remains is for me to wish you happy viewing. I am quite sure that you will be very impressed by both the ease of use of this plugin and the results.
So it's interesting, yeah. I might reach out to them and see if they want to send one over for us to have a play with on stream. But I mean, pretty powerful that you can kind of lock in so many different aspects of it. And again, this is people who really want to get into the kind of the nuance of color and kind of play around with it. Like he's got a landscape shot here, you know, that he does a huge amount with. So, you know, again, pretty specific niche tool, but if it's something that you're working a lot with, like landscape photographers, I could see you'd be very useful, especially with so many different versions of green in a shot like this. Like you could really just bring in all these different tones of green into the same one and really just give you a very dynamic and tight color grade without overlaying a color grade on top, which is what color grade normally is, right? You're applying like a wash of color on top, whereas what this seems to be doing is moving the colors in the actual image rather than applying like a color on top, which is what a grade is. So it's kind of interesting. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I'll pop the if you are interested, then I'll pop the link in there. But yeah, Jamie being facetious about the about the affiliate code. I'm not going for all that again. So yeah, have a look if it's something that you're interested in. I know a couple of you do a lot of color, so yeah, it seems pretty cool. And like I said, working natively in Photoshop like that instantly, like the one that we had before, like zero lag. You know, it wasn't like you're doing something and then you were waiting for it to apply. It was all kind of at the same time, so all the adjustments were in real time, which was very, very cool. Yeah. I was on the night out trying to sort that out. I was like 4 pints in. Yeah, well done, Jamie. Thank you. So yeah, thank Jamie for the Boris FX affiliate code, because I'd given up, literally given up. Yeah. I think the link's in there. This is the link here, Danny. Yeah, how you doing, Danny? You good? You been busy? What were you working on? Because you said I think we spoke on Facebook the other day on an image, and you said you were working on doing some more personal shoots, getting back with getting more studio work or something like that. How's that going? I just wanted to bring this up here, this Data Colors New Affordable Spider Express sort of thing. Now, we tried using these in the studio years ago. Does anybody use these? Does anybody use any screen calibrator or color checker on the screen and that sort of stuff? Is it something that you are interested in, or is it like, nah, it's just I don't need to know any of that. If it looks good to me, then that's good enough. Does anybody use these? I will add a follow-up to this. Does anybody use like a gray card or a color checker when they shoot? And I'm just like, I'm not throwing anybody under the bus here. I'm genuinely curious as to who uses it, and if you find it help or what. Yeah, I'm just kind of curious. So these things, if you don't know, what is this? $120, I think. Yeah, $120. I think Vlad hasn't been in the stream the last couple of streams, but I think he said that he had one, or maybe no. I think he actually got something that was measured the light in the room rather than the screen. But yeah, I do you know what, we tried to have it in the studio because we had like 6 machines, and we tried to make sure every machine was calibrated the same, all that sort of stuff. Like, it's a nice idea in theory. but yeah, we still ended up kind of adjusting it by eye in the end anyway, so it was kind of redundant. So we didn't really bother in the end. It was just more trouble than it's worth. You just end up doing it by eye. But I know that if you are working with companies like Coca-Cola, right, and you're doing a shoot for Coca-Cola, and they're like, the red's got to be the Coca-Cola red, right? I mean, there's no it's kind of it's kind of close enough. Red is red. Am I right, guys? No, it's got to be the red. So when you're dealing with precise nuance in color like that, specifically with products, I get it. I get it. But I mean, that's not what I do. I'm kind of selling the experience of a product rather than the product itself, right? And that's kind of what editorial tends to be as well. But each to their own. I'm always amazed when I see these new ones come out. Denny says, yeah, good, very busy, shooting a lot. Nice, man. Yeah, gonna set up some new work. As Denny says, so Danny, you use a grey card. So Danny, if you're still here, do you talk me through it, right? So do you always use a grey card, or I only use it if I'm in the studio, or I've always got one in my bag if I'm out doing a shoot, like an event or something like that? Do you just hold it up and just grab a couple of shots at the event? And I presume you use that to, you bring the images back into Lightroom. If you guys aren't aware, that's the reason why you use a grey card, is so that you bring the image back into Lightroom. The end of the shoot, you got 500 images, whatever it is, and then you take your white balance picker, and then boom, you just click it on the grey card, and then you essentially have a baseline value of neutralized white balance that you can then copy and paste across all the other images, right? That's the theory, okay? And like Danny says, that's what he's doing, yeah. So Terry says, I have it but never use it. I used to be better with gauging color, especially with my monitor. When you say gauging colors now, especially, so you're better at, so basically saying you're happy to do it with your eyes. You feel confident enough now that in your ability that you can go, ooh, yeah, that's a bit too green or whatever like that, and you're confident that basically it's not your monitor that's saying it's green. It is your image that's green. Yeah. Denny says, I need the Innova Pro 3 so it checks the light and sets the color balance. It does do that. So what Danny's referring to there is that the Innova Pro 3 is this big old light, and it's got a little eye in there that you can fire it at something, and you can use the app as well, but you can fire it at something and it will match the color. So it's kind of useful if you're doing a shoot in a pub or something like that, right, and you've got some ambient light there in the background of the subject, right, and that ambient light is maybe a tungsten light from the bar or something, right, which is nice and orangey, and you can eyeball it. So you've got somebody in the foreground that you want to light with the same kind of orangey white balance, so you can eyeball it. Or you can basically use what Danny's talking about here, is you can point the light at that color, lock it in via the app, and then transfer that same color value from the lights behind to the key light on your subject, right? So, it's cool to have, and this is good for product photography as well, right? If you're shooting a green bag and you want to make sure that the background behind the green bag is the same thing, you can set your phone to look at the green bag, boom, and then you can then translate that to RGB values to the light, and you can have the background the same color as the bag. Useful tech for sure, especially in product shots and that sort of thing. Yeah. Terry says, not the Express, I have the Spider 5 Pro. Yeah, I mean, they're all about the same price as well, right, Terry? $100 or something like that. Yeah. So it says use it for headshots and events. I actually do it in different areas and indoors and outdoors when shooting those events. Yeah, so okay, Danny. So you are doing it properly. So when I say properly, what I mean is I often see photographers who just get the grey card out at the start of the day, right? And they'll be in the reception room or whatever, and then they just never use the grey card again. And they've moved around, they're outside, and then they'll be upstairs in the bedroom, or they'll be on the dance floor and never use it again. So really, you should get that grey card out. It's not to calibrate your camera, it's to calibrate the environment that you're in. So really, and like what Danny's saying there, is kind of wherever he moves, like a new room that he moves to, or the daylight changes from noon to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you should really shoot the grey card again. Yeah. Um, Andre says, I always have a card with my gear, but I do have a settings I use always. So that's interesting, Andre. So you said you always have the card with your gear, so your grey card with your gear. I'm getting the impression that you don't use it though. You have it if you need to use it, but you're saying you tend to stick your camera. When you say your settings on your camera, you go, I love to shoot in 4700 Kelvin. That's my favorite Kelvin. I lock it in on that. Is that what you're saying, or like run me through what you mean by that? Your favorite settings, yeah. Yeah, exactly that. I'll check on my phone after a few hours to make sure I'm still seeing things correctly there. Okay, nice. So, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, Terry, but what you're saying here is that you're doing your retouching, boom, 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 sat down for a few hours working on the images, working away, and then maybe you'll send like a couple of these finished images to your phone, and then you'll check how they're looking on your phone, right? Which is a great tip, and really good advice. I'd recommend anybody to do that. And this helps to keep you both you locked in, in kind of what's going on, because maybe it's getting darker outside, it's getting brighter in your room, or because the ambient's on, all this sort of stuff. So it can really help to make sure that the brightness values as well, right? Especially if you're staring at a screen and then you look at your phone and it's like, iPhones are really good. Like you can crap on iPhones all you want. I get it. I have my issues with them as well. But the iPhone screens are really, really consistent, right? The colors on them are really good, really crisp. So if you're ever kind of like, oh, I don't know, God, is it too green or not? Send it to your phone or something like that and have a look. And it's a really good like second screen to kind of just give yourself either double check, or usually be able to tell if it's too dark or too bright, something like that. So Andre says, yeah, if it looks way off, I use it. Okay, fair enough, Andre. Yeah, okay. So what Andre's saying there, he has it in his bag. If he's shooting, it just looks. If somebody's looking a bit green around the gills, then yeah, something's going on. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. When shooting clothes for a catalog, it's the color of the items you look for being on the money. Yeah. The AD or the assistant director or client is the one that calls the color on the day. Really, Andre? So you have okay. So you let them. I mean, that's safest. Yeah, if you're letting them okay that. So it's like in the corporate world or commercial world, it can be a pain. A good friend of mine, Wayne Johns, he used to be like the studio manager for Next, right? At like major fashion house here in the UK, and as with all online stores, like one of the biggest issues they have is returns, right? And the biggest reasons for returns is it doesn't look like it did on the screen, right? It's always going to be the response. It didn't look the same color when I put it on as it did on the screen, right? And we've all seen the was it gold or was it silver meme from like a decade ago or something like that. And his kind of job was to ensure that the whole process was kind of as locked in and as tight as possible. So, making sure that spending, huge amounts of money on proper lighting, making sure that everything's calibrated and locked down. But at the end of the day, it's still a guy who has like the clothing in like a day box, which is basically like a box with daylight lights in it. And you would look at that clothing, and to my knowledge, it's still somebody at the end that makes the adjustments. So, like, does it look like that on screen, right? Does it look, I need to add a little bit more green, right? So I kind of find it odd because you can have all these things in place, right? All, like the proper lighting, the grey cards and the calibration and the spiders and all this sort of shit. You can have all this in place. Bottom line, though, it comes down to a human that goes, oh, I need to add 5 more green. So I think you can rely on this stuff as much as you want, but I still think that it's got to come down to your skill at the end of the day. I mean, Andre's got it sweet here. He lets the client sign off on the color on the day, which is great, right? That means you don't have to worry about it. Yeah, if they want to add plus 5 green, crack on. Yeah, it's not up to me. Yeah, that's definitely the way to do it. Yeah. In the old days, I had a printer say I shot the film of color. I told the client to look at the film as if she could see the color was okay, and the printer that I've done. I worked in a photo lab straight out of art college. I worked in a photo lab, and one of my jobs in that photo lab was dealing with poster printing, and this thing was like the width of a room, right? massive rolls, and it had like 16 inks in it or something like that, and it was the bane of my life trying to calibrate that thing, because you got these 16 inks and they all got to be, you know, lined up, making sure that everything, you know, you got the right color profiles and all that sort of stuff. I do not miss that, and anybody who can deal with color profiles and all that sort of stuff, which just sounds like you were doing as well, Andre, hats off to you, because that can be misery, you know. The reason I'm kind of being a bit flippant with it is because everybody sees color differently. Your idea of what this blue looks like is going to be different to mine or the person next to you. It's going to be pretty close, don't get me wrong, but it's going to be different. Like when we're born, we see the world kind of with a little bit of a blue hue, and then when we're pretty old, like the world gets a bit browner, right? There's a lot more warmth in it, and our eyes, you know, will kind of have different color casts, if you like, the older we get. And like color is this fascinating just perception, like color blindness or whatever you want to call it, where people see colors differently. Like that's the only kind of disability that we would call that you have to be told that you have, right? Because if you're seeing this blue and it's like kind of greeny to you, like it doesn't affect you in any way. This is the world that you live in. This is the only color that you're seeing. I can't come to you and say, no, that's not green, that's blue. Like it doesn't mean anything, right? Because your world is only using those colors and that color palette. So I kind of find the whole color blindness thing, or whatever you want to call it, like a weird, because it's not blindness. You're just seeing colors slightly differently to the person next to you. And the only reason why we say that this is blue and not green is because more people agree that this is blue and not green, not the other way around. So color is this fascinating, just very ethereal thing that we all have in everyday life, and yet it's very, very difficult for us to kind of drill down, because it's impossible to drill down, you know. It's different for everybody, you know. Speaking of like kind of measuring the world and that sort of thing, I saw this on DIY photography the other day. I thought this was pretty cool. So this thing is like, it's a little like a little color meter reader thing, right? Look at the size of it. It's just the size of a lighter, right? So a tiny little thing, and it's what's the price of this? So $200, yeah, or 150 euros. Oh, that's Canadian, yeah. Okay, it's got a little thing here, yeah. Kind of. So tiny little thing. It's got. Let me just gonna mute this. So this is just a typical light meter. He's just basically talking about the world is filled with color, filled with light, and we need to measure it. So we got the EV, we got the shutter speed, we got the F number, and it also measures Kelvin there, just giving you an idea of the size and the lux and that sort of stuff. This thing is pretty cool. Reason being is because I know I've just slagged off the fact that you can't really measure color in any way or brightness, and you should just use your eyes and get on with it. Something like this gives you a very useful idea of the color and the brightness in the world around you. You're basically building your visual language, which I find super useful for training people, right? I'm able to look at a light and go, oh yeah, that's maybe one stop underexposed to what it needs to be, right? Just through experience. Or I'm going to look at something and go, yeah, I need to add like maybe 1,000 Kelvin to that just to warm it up to kind of neutralize the blue in that. That's your visual language that you're kind of getting over time. And little tools like this enable you to kind of know what's really around you. So if you're outside or something and you go, I mean, it all looks pretty neutral to me, you can go, oh, actually, it's 5,600 Kelvin out here, right, to give you a gauge, right? Or you're inside and you're going, it's pretty warm in here. Like, what is this? And you bring it out, and it's like, oh, 3,500 Kelvin, that sort of thing. So like little tools like this can really help you to kind of learn and see color and exposure in the language that we're used to, right? Which is Kelvin or F numbers and ISOs and that sort of stuff. So yeah, very, very cool little product for sure. Yeah, curve analysis as well, like flash times. So it can even show you the flash curves, which is wild, right? So I'm very interested in this little thing. Yeah, super nerdy, but yeah, check it out if you're interested. I think it had a Kickstarter. I think it's being made or something like that. Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. I had an opportunity to go to school and get a degree in colour from L'Oréal Paris. Nice. Okay. Yeah, I was a colourist who I was a hairdresser in England some time ago, like when I was a hairdresser, ladies hairdresser. Look, I've done I've done scores of hair shoots over the years, Andre, as I'm sure you're aware. And yeah, I mean, a lot of L'Oréal colour competitions and that sort of thing. And I have learnt over the years just to kind of accept it, right? Because what I mean by that is, if what the client wants the hair to be less red or more red or something like that, or they've added color and purple to it, and I'm like, that's not real or whatever, like, you know, it's up to the client at the end of the day. But that is an interesting background there, Andre. Yeah. Put it on the Xmas. Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. Is it like a waiting list or something? What have they got here? It is now available. What is, like, that is Canadian dollars, right? What is that in well, did I say it was 200? 100 quid, mate. That's easy money all day. Yeah. Or 145 US freedom bucks. Okay. So yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah, I hope that does well. I think it should do well. Yeah, remarkable little thing. I think you charge it up via the USB cable and stuff there. He's also got like a focus as well, so I think you can, you know, point it at something and it'll give you an exposure value of the designated area. Very cool. Yeah. What is it with you and affiliate codes? Everybody tonight is giving me shit about affiliate codes. Oh man. Yeah. I have to send this to Vlad actually, because I think Vlad will be interested in this. Yeah. A couple of bits, nothing crazy. It's just the Polaroid is still banging away. They're bringing out these new products, doing a collaboration with I think Thrasher magazine. I find it ironic that something like skating, which was very anti-establishment and anti-corporation and stuff back in the 90s, back when I was doing it, it's now got its branded Polaroid camera and stuff. I just find it odd, very odd. Yeah, it's like Gucci coming out and making skate shoes. You just be like, please don't. But hopefully they make some dollars off it. Yeah. Thanks, Jamie. Yeah. Nikon actively developing dedicated Nikon cinema lenses. So I saw this story a while back. And I was like, okay, interesting. Nikon is actively developing dedicated Nikon cinema lenses for the company. While it may take a bit before the official launch, the company confirms that it has identified optics that the cinema industry needs, and it will deliver them. So I was like, okay, bit of a nothing story, and then I see this right later on, or I think this was announced beforehand, but anyway. So the Nikon ZR is its first Z cinema camera made in tandem with Red. So those of you who have lives may not be aware that Nikon actually bought Red, right, which is the big cinema red cameras, so huge. And at the time, it was like, what on earth? Like, Red is this like huge cinema powerhouse, makes incredible cinema cameras that like the industry just fawns over, and then Nikon just out of the blue comes out and buys them. So weird. And at the time we were all like, okay, maybe what we'll start to see is some of the Red tech in Nikon cameras, right? So some of the video from Red being brought over into the Nikon cameras. And I'm sure we will, but I certainly wasn't expecting them to make their own cinema camera, which is wild. Yeah. So so some of you guys may be like, oh yeah, I knew this was coming. This was totally shocked me. Nikon has announced its first cinema camera, the first of a new Z Cinema series of products. Technically, Z-mount, V-Raptor, Komodo, those cameras, but these were just remounts designed specifically for filmmakers. The full-frame Nikon ZR. Okay, so the ZR is described as an ultra lightweight, 1.2 pounds, full frame video camera that offers class leading capture and workflow features, some of which Nikon says have never been seen before at the camera of this level. So, like, I'm sure I don't need to kind of illustrate to you how small this is, right? This is a lens, and you can kind of get an idea of the size of it based on, like we know how big these switches are and that sort of stuff. This thing is tiny. This is just wild, yeah. We aren't holding back. Our first Nikon camera developed with Red has all the creative controls that filmmakers need, with features never been seen at this level of handheld cinema camera. Which, yeah, I would agree, yeah. The Nikon ZR is the camera that will challenge the established video market and will demonstrate Nikon's commitment to advancing the tools available to video production professionals. It's like it looks great. It does look great. Yeah, I mean, this is interesting here. See this switch here, photo and video. Interesting feature to have. I mean, many of the other cinema cameras obviously don't have that. I think there was a couple there was a couple of medium format, like larger ones, which were beautiful, that had the ability to shoot stills, but it was kind of scuffed. It wasn't really designed for it and that sort of thing. So this, I'm kind of interested to see what comes out of this. Because remember, you've just said they're making these specific lenses, right? Which in here, I mean, I don't even know whether they kind of reference it, but we'll see. So Nikon, like, it gets shit on Instagram and online for being this kind of a meme of a camera brand. But look, I don't care who you are, you'd be hard pressed to not accept and acknowledge that what Nikon has been putting out with their mirrorless cameras in the last couple of years has been good. It really has been good. And this is another step. I don't know, like many of us here don't shoot video at this level, but very impressive to see them making strides like this. The ZR has a noticeably small body design, which is made even more impressive given that it can do all the fact with no fan. So there's no fan in this thing. So it's that size, no fan, which is typically what makes so many of these other cinema cameras so big, as it has this monster fan in them. Nikon says that the camera has efficient heat dissipation and thermal management design that not only decreases the noise and enhances battery life. So this is true, right? So a lot of the time with batteries and how quickly these cameras gobble through batteries is just due to the amount of heat that these things emit. So interesting, and obviously no noise. Again, most of, if not all, the noise from cameras comes from the fan, but also improves durability since there are no points of ingress. Again, huge, right? So no holes inside, which a lot of these things would have. If you've got a fan, you've got to have a hole to let the heat out. So again, impressive. Yeah. Nikon claims that the camera can record for a very long time without issue. We've got to see what that means. Like, what does that mean? 10 minutes? 30 minutes? We've got to see what that means, because when these things heat up, you can start to see a degrade in image quality. Pixels can start to do weird stuff. Like years ago, this has not been a thing for a while, but years ago you'd get kind of dead pixels as they like overheat and just turn red or something like that. So I can't believe that's going to happen here, but it is a concern when you put so much power into such a small space. You keep it enclosed and encased, so like no ingress, like they said, no fan in it. Like very skeptical, but impressive if they can manage to pull it off. The camera features a magnesium alloy chassis, same found in the Z6 III series, which is great, which means it is meant to withstand pro-level wear and tear. Don't know what pro-level means. Nikon's, so it hasn't got like an IP rating, essentially, as of yet. Nikon says its commitment to filmmakers is further noticeable thanks to the camera's controls, a new filmmaker-orientated UI, with familiar menus, a new quick menu for filmmakers, and customizable button placement. So you can go, I want the aperture here or whatever, or focus on that sort of stuff. So fair enough. Pretty standard here, nothing crazy. Uses really parallelly stacked full frame sensor. So the ZR uses a familiar partially stacked full frame sensor found on the Z6 III, with the ZR can record up to 6K. So the stacking means that it's essentially tricking the size of the sensor, right? So like, this is good and bad. personally, for me, I prefer an actual physically large sensor, because that means that your depth of field and the way the bokeh is rendered and focusing, all that sort of stuff, like the larger sensors give you this, in my opinion, far richer, more beautiful image. But if you just want raw, like, stats, right, in terms of, oh yeah, got to shoot 6K, then, you know, this can kind of trick it by using this stacked sensor. You know, 12-bit raw internally is also the first camera to use 12-bit R3. I don't know what raw, not really too sure what that is. With the new raw format, this is meant to be familiar with the red code raw users. Okay. So here we go. So this is some of the red tech coming over. Yeah. Hey Sterling, how you doing, mate? Yeah. Nice big kit. Yeah. Yeah. Unless Andre, you were talking about something else, but yeah, it's pretty impressive. By leveraging its broad 15 stops of dynamic range. So, like, I think the GFX is something like 11 or something. I could be wrong, but I think 15 stops is definitely juicy, right? That's a huge range. I mean, that's like broad daylight to night vision practically. It's just huge range. Yeah, it achieves well-balanced image quality from highlights to shadows, supports log, exposure standards, colors consistent with the red color standard. So this is where it kind of gets juicy, right? Because this is what these guys are known for. So it's very interesting. And look, I shoot Nikon because of the Nikon color they already have. So I mean, look, if they say it's going to get better, then that's nuts. Yeah. With true red color tonality, skin tone integrity, and tonal roll off. And again, these are all things that cinematographers use the red camera for. Was for these things. This is like, you know, you're buying the red tech, and to see Nikon implementing it, in my opinion, so quickly into a new camera like this, pretty impressive. Yeah. The ZR has two bases, ISO 800 and 6400, but ISO in the red NE files are fully adjustable in post, just like Red Camera Raw. So this is, you know, not an issue for film, video, right? Because it's a moving image. So this is why you see far higher ISOs in video, and we kind of don't really think too much about it, right? Because it's a moving image. The grain and the noise is constantly moving, and it's a very large, you know, image to begin with. So these higher ISOs, not really noticeable in video. When we start talking about stills, right? So this, you know, this to many of you in chat here would be like, what, the lowest ISO is 800. Yeah, we'd have to see how that translates to a still image, yeah, which is their saying that it can do. The ZR has no electronic viewfinder. Nikon did juice the rear LCD. Yeah, okay, yeah, true. So it's just the screen. Okay, interesting. So if you want, I suppose you'd have to buy the viewfinder separately. Okay. When there's no lag and all that sort of stuff, yeah. It's not only large at 4 inches across, but it's bright enough to use in direct sunlight. Sure, yeah. There's built-in support through 2-bit float audio. Additionally, ZR is the first Nikon camera to come with a digital accessory hot shoe. Okay, so interesting. Is it? That's kind of weird. Okay. ZR is the first Nikon camera to come with a digital accessory hot shoe, which Nikon says enables two-way digital communication between the camera and compatible accessories, allowing for advanced functionality such as tally lamp and microphone LED control. Interesting. Okay. I mean, if that's true, that this hot shoe tech could well find its way down to stills cameras, right? Interesting. Okay. Nikon says it plans to collaborate with third-party accessory makers to offer the range. Okay, so they're not just going to do you're not just going to shaft you in the Apple approach and like, oh yeah, if you want to use our microphone, then it's going to cost you $8,000. Yeah. On that note, Nikon announced that the MD shotgun mic, new digital accessory shoe, requires no batteries, built-in shock mounts. Okay. So here we go. Got it there. What black magic is that? Like, the ZR boasts 7.5 stops of in-body image stabilization. Like, how? That's wild. That's crazy. As well as Nikon's AI autofocus technology driven by the XPED 7 engine. look, I'm not. Look, I still shoot DSLR, so I'm not plugged into the latest camera tech. But what is normally like? How many stops does a Sony have of image stabilization? Like that seems like a lot. 7.5 is like huge. Like you could shoot at what, 1/8 of a second here, and it'd be stable. Is that like this is crazy? Yeah, maybe even more. Like if you go over a quarter and then you go what, 1/8, 15th, 30th, 60th, 120. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like something like a quarter of a second or something is wild. Yeah. If you have 800 ISO, I think you would have to have a lot of filters to get that down for photos. Okay, so this is the thing, Andre. Yeah, this is kind of new to me, and how they manage that, because you're absolutely right. And with video, they're dealing with frame rates, so they would go, okay, we can manage the exposure of this by adjusting the frame rates and all that sort of stuff, and lens and that sort of thing. So what Andre's saying there is like, what do we just need, like 4 stops of ND to bring that down, so that I could shoot it, at a reasonable shutter speed or whatever. I guess, I mean, if you're shooting ambient, which a lot of video is kind of nearly all ambient, right? So it's either LED or hot lights. So hence why the ISO, like the native ISO on video cameras, is notoriously high, right? For us still shooters, especially studio guys, like we're used to 100 ISO and that's it, right? Because we're using flash, which is super bright for a split second. So this is why video and ISO is typically a lot higher at the native, so that you're not, shredding the noise and the, when you're trying to accommodate for these ambient LEDs and that sort of stuff. So that's why video cameras are set so high. So to your point, it is interesting. Is there internal ND, or you would just go, well, I guess I just shoot at the lowest 800 ISO and then I shoot at 0.002 of a second, right? Because if I'm shooting LED anyway, it's not an issue. Or if you're shooting flash and you wanted to use this, you would just have to use HSS. But it's a good point. It's a good point. Yeah. Or just get the background out of focus. Yeah. Or yeah. Okay. So yeah. Again, so what you're saying there is like, if I want to shoot f1.2, how do I shoot f1.2 at 800 ISO? Again, you would just do it with the shutter speed on here. That'll be my guess. But it would be far safer to do that rather than using ND filters that could introduce color shifts, as well as another piece of glass in the system and that sort of thing. But you're right, it's surely not designed for photo. But I am hesitant as to why they have this switch there, unless they have some internal way to knock it down. Yeah. As Leo says, before I started photography, I shot video on Blackmagic cinema camera, which had a base ISO of 800 as well. Yeah, you really get used to it with NDs. So with the highlight roll-up is generally way nicer. Interesting, Leo. Okay, good bit of advice there. So what Leo's saying there is he was using Blackmagic, which again, base ISO 800, and the camera that I can't remember what it's called now, but it was a medium format, sensor in a video camera, and people were shooting stills on it and they were saying it was beautiful, but the same issue again with the brightness values. I think somebody shot like a wedding on it and it was gorgeous. And what Leo's talking about here, which is interesting, you really get used to it with NDs. So he's saying you use NDs and the highlight roll off is generally way nicer. Okay. Yeah. So that's something that we don't talk about too much, Leo, in stills. You talk about highlight roll off. I think I know what you mean in terms of how it blends from white point to mid-tone. But how would you describe that? Why would you say, or how would you quantify nicer highlight roll off? Like, how would you quantify that? The new Nikon ZR cinema camera will be available in late October 2025 for 2200. Additional kit configures will also be offered pairing with the Nikon Z50mm 1.8 lens 270. Okay. Do you know what? I did not get down to the bottom of this article before we went live. That's the first time I've seen that. I am blown away by that. In fact, that's kind of wild. So better specs than the FX3 at half the price. No active cooling though. Yeah. That's the thing with the no cooling and the heat dissipation, like recording for long times. There's no way they're releasing that camera without doing tests, for Christ's sake. Yeah, but yeah. Interesting. Yeah. This camera has a 2-hour limit, so it's not for long form capture. 2 hours is loads though, right? Not quite like Sony though. The more recent bodies of the A did it way better. We got a Sony boy here. Nikon's do overheat over time. Both for Z6 and Z6 III, which are my primary bodies, and Sony overheat, especially 4K content. Okay. So I guess it depends on what you're doing with it, but I mean, for most people, 2 hours is going to be fine. Yeah. Interesting. That is very interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna have to follow that pretty closely, because that's coming out like next month for like $2,000. That's wild. That's absolutely crazy. Yeah. And look, again, I will move on, but I'm really surprised that we're seeing the results of this Red purchase, that they did. When did they buy Red? Does anybody know? Yeah, exactly. It wasn't that long ago, right? It's a couple of years ago. All right? It's crazy. They really pumped that out. Yeah. Okay. The opposite end of the spectrum, we have Fuji and the GFX, right? So those of you who don't know, GFX is Fuji's medium format digital camera. Beautiful camera. I love that thing. It's definitely on my Christmas list to get. I think, rather than going mirrorless, full frame mirrorless like the Z or the Sony, I think if I do switch up, it'll probably be to the GFX. So I was kind of interested in this. Not really relevant to many of us, especially when this thing is like $16,000, but it speaks to the character of the tech that they're putting in these GFXs, right? Because if it's good enough for this end, that tech will be in the medium format cameras as well. So very interested to see what GFX is doing. At 55, Fujifilm was announced the medium format cinema camera. It's only been slowly teasing over the past year. It'll be called the GFX Eterna, sorry, not Etna. Eterna 55 will feature a huge list of recording formats. Codecs will be priced at $16,500. So look, it's not going to be for many of us, but again, what I'm saying is it speaks volumes to the tech that Fuji are putting into these cameras, right? Because to a certain extent, a lot of this tech will filter down to the stills bodies as well. Yeah. And I always said that the GFX sensor and the lenses that the GFX lenses, I forget what they're called, but like they throw a very large circle of image, right? And I've always said that those lenses throw a far larger image onto the chip than the chip is, right? So the chip's here, and then like the lens circle is like big. So I've always in the back of my mind thought that Fuji would keep the lenses and then make a larger chip, like a larger medium format chip. It's kind of what I've been holding out for, because as much as the GFX is a beautiful size chip, it is only marginally bigger than the 35mm. So it's not hugely obvious that it's medium format, right? I think I got some shots here from years ago on the GFX. So I mean, like beautifully crisp images for sure, right? Like beautiful, absolutely pristine images if you're into that sort of thing. But you don't look at this and go medium format. Whereas if you were to look at a Hasselblad shot like this, you would go medium format, because that's to do with the size of the chip, yeah. So, but beautiful camera nonetheless. I mean, you can't argue with the quality on this, Look straight on Instagram. Yeah. So again, one to keep an eye on with Fuji and GFX doing that. Yeah. Flat light in the highlights. Yeah, it's kind of a weird one, right, Andre? It's like, how do you kind of, how do you really explain that? Yeah, because of the log curve, you generally have more data in the highlights with higher ISOs. Filmmaker IQ did a great bit on that. I'll have a look at that, Leo. Okay, and that is interesting. Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah. And you guys have spoken, and you guys have heard me speak about this before with color and exposures, and most of the digital chips that I've ever worked with really struggle with the far extremes of the color spectrum, like reds and blues, right? So, trying to think of, did I share an image? Yeah, I did. Yeah, recent article. This one, right? This one here, right? So this is using like extreme, like full, like max red, right? So however you want to call it, 0 hue or 356, whatever it is, hue, right? And it was like cranked all the way. And when you're shooting reds like this, you've got to be so careful that the saturation doesn't clip. So whenever I shoot reds like this, I always underexpose by at least a stop to ensure that that red highlight has all the data. It's far easier for me to raise up the shadows, right? Because I know that digital cameras have no issue at all raising up the shadows. There's always tons of data in the shadows, but digital chips really struggle with maintaining highlight data in extreme colors. So this again, like Anders was talking about this earlier on, about, you know, having the skills beforehand, knowing what you want rather than just shifting the sliders around and using a grey card and all this sort of stuff is all well and good, but it's experience at the end of the day that tells me that I need to underexpose this image by a stop, at least, knowing that I can bring it back and knowing that I want to maintain, you know, that data in the reds, right? And that just comes with, you know, kind of experience. Yeah, I'll have to keep an eye on that one. So Godox new cob light promises 4K HMI brightness using half the power. So this was really one of the only kind of lighting or lights that I saw being announced recently. And this is kind of a bold statement, and I can't find any huge information on it, because I was thinking that maybe it's just magnifying, like it's got a magnifier on the front, and it's going, look, rather than the light being spread out, we can double the light by focusing it into a tube, right? Which is what other lights have done in the past. It's fine, but it's just kind of interesting that they are saying that there's a spread there, 63 diameter spread, decent spread, so it's not super focused, and it's saying that no extra components needed. So, like, you know, you can see the chip here. It's not like it's got a magnifier on there. So if what they're saying is true, in theory, brighter LEDs are possible, right? Now, this is only white light at the moment, so no LED bicolor chip on board. Light promises to deliver brightness comparable to a traditional 4K HMI, while consuming only 2,000 watts of power, half the energy typically required. The unit weighs 22 pounds, 10 kilos, so it's a beast, without the yoke, making it lighter and easier to rig than conventional 4K HMIs, which is true, yeah. Plus IP65, which means, you know, full rain, anything apart from submerging it, good to go. So the MG 4K, Godox and their namings, man, Jesus Christ. 63mm light emitting surface is designed as a near point source, producing even illumination when paired with a 15-degree reflector. Godox says it can achieve up to 36.7 times higher illuminance than its native output in an open face mode. So again, they're using the modifiers to kind of focus it in. So look, I would need to see this further, whether it's just marketing PS, or whether they've kind of done something funky here. Pretty interesting, yeah. I think digital chips seem to be a bit like shooting transparency film. So what Andre's saying there is, film used to have typically C41 or color film used to be like a couple of stops of latitude, right? So you could kind of underexpose it by a stop, and you could bring the image back, and you could overexpose the image by a stop, and you could bring it back. Digital cameras, like we just looked at there, had like 15 stops, right? So film typically has an inherent contrast, right? So when people go, oh, I love the look of film, it's typically because film is inherently contrasty, right? It has this rich contrast, and contrast translates to saturation, so images look richer. Whereas digital, like every Netflix show that you've seen, has like 15 stops of latitude, right? It's just dead flat. So there's tons of data in the shadows, tons of data in the highlights. It can be very confusing to look at. Where am I supposed to be looking? And what Andre's saying here is that transparency film was like half a stop of latitude. So you really had to nail it. But if you did nail it, you were rewarded with a gorgeous colors, because the transparency film, or E6, is very contrasty, which gives you this very rich saturation, which is why a lot of clients insisted on stuff being shot on transparencies back in the day. Yeah. So I wouldn't say film is, I wouldn't say digital is like transparency, Andre. I would just say that it has certain, like it struggles with at the extremes of colors, you know. I would say like most digital cameras probably have around 8 stops. That would be my kind of ballpark guess. Like four stops to be safe. I remember when I shot with the GFX years ago, I was in the studio and the flash didn't fire, right? And as a test, I was like, okay, the flash didn't fire, so I'm just using LED modeling bulbs, and I was able to get a usable image from that frame where the flashes didn't fire with just the LED modeling bulbs that was clearly like heavily underexposed. So the GFX latitude is wild, yeah, absolutely wild. So yeah, this is a very, very bright light. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. Like I said, it could just well be, you know, certain companies have been known to be generous with their wording or how they phrase things to, you know, grab some headlines. So I am skeptical of this, but if they've managed to get some sort of tech in there with like magnifiers or lenses somewhere in the chip, so that they're able to do all of that before it leaves the head and still get this 63mm spread rather than have to see. Yeah. But can it be easy to work like a neg film in post? I mean, yeah, exactly. And this is the issue, Andre, that we have this, in my opinion, this very flat style at the moment, this cinematic style, or the Netflix look, as I call it, and like it is cool. I'm guilty of it as well. I am super guilty of it. I'm not saying I'm not, you know, because it is like it's almost a bit of a flex, right? Where, let's have a look, like here, right? Like this is a flex. Like this is a stylistic flex from me going, I'm able to achieve this. This is worst case scenario, having to illuminate something that is basically black on black on black, right? And not only that, but fabric that has no reflective qualities. This kind of black matte stocking that she's wearing, and I'm able to light it in such a way that we're able to get all this data from it. But there's no blacks in here, right? Like there's no contrast. Like you couldn't shoot this on transparency. It would just be a black blob. So look, I think there's a time and a place for it, but you know, I'm guilty of this very flat style as well. You know, like here as well. This is beautiful. I mean, look at the, you know, without blowing my own trumpet, but this is the dream, right? To have just this beautiful data in the colors. Just, you know, this is like platinum blonde hair, white hair. I think Wibbly photograph this girl in a minute. You can see what her hair looks like, but you know, just pure white hair, and then to see just the complete spectrum of color within that and in the skin as well. Like it's tough to not be, you know, drawn in by it. I am guilty of doing it, but at the same time, it's like I do miss the contrast of the film days. Yeah. Twixter made it. How you doing, Twixter, mate? How you doing? How you doing? Chips have got so much better now. As you said, you can have a lot more stops to the images. They are so much better now, Andre. Yeah, it's crazy. Like, I mean, like you said, like transparency being very contrasty and like half a stop. I remember having to shoot 5.4. I was going to say tranny then, but you got to be careful. 5.4 transparency, and like it's expensive, right? It's time consuming and expensive. And you are just light metering the living shit out of that shot to make sure that everything is correctly lit. It's not just whack a light on here and don't worry about the shadows. We can pull that out afterwards. You can't. You're using 5, 6, 8 lights because you don't have the data in post or in the final transparency to be able to push and pull that, right? We use dodge and burn now. In Photoshop, but years ago you would have to do the dodge and burning with lights. And I've spoken about this before, but like some of the OG Playboy photographers were absolute masters, right? Where they would use 30 or 40 lights to light a scene because it had to be done in camera. And I spoke to you a moment ago about Evoto and using AI retouching to fix that girl's acne and that sort of stuff. Like, you can do a lot of that with lighting, right? And you can do it with what are they called? Like basically makeup gels, glamour gels, basically colored cosmetic gels, where you are basically finding skin tones, right? So if somebody used to have redness in the skin, you would use a skin tone gel to basically wash that subject in one skin tone color, right? And that kind of and that negates the need for a lot of the issues with redness in the skin. But like that's a lost art. Like, nobody does that anymore. Are you crazy? But it is something that I've thought about doing with LEDs, because you can do that now with LEDs, right? So I have some old cosmetic gels here which are just beautifully very delicate colored gels that are like skin tones and that sort of thing that you would apply. And I was thinking about basically replicating those with RGB values, which is what I did for my RGB presets in the Rotalights. So when Rotalight came to me and was like, Jake, we want your gel pack in our Rotalight lights as a preset, what I did was I went away and shot my gels right against the white studio wall, put black velvet wall in between it, right, and then I put the RGB head to the other side of it, and then came back with a camera and then shot them simultaneously, right? So the flash was firing my color gel, and then I was dialing in the RGB values on the right hand side until the two colors matched up. So that's how I was able to get those color presets. So in theory, I should be able to do the same thing with cosmetic gels. I should be able to shoot cosmetic gels against a white wall and then line them up with the RGB values. It might be interesting to play with that again. Yeah. Great shots, you master what you do. I've just been doing it a long time, Andre. Yeah, but thank you though. Yeah. At Playboy, they would have a contest to see who could use the most lights on a centerfold. Is that right? I didn't know that. That's hilarious. Yeah. So Leo says, some cheap China Speedlight gel pack has one skin tone gel in it, and I used it by accident. Totally lost art. It looks strangely awesome. It is a lost art, Leo. It really is, and it's something that I've kind of thought about for the last few months in the back of my mind as a project that I kind of want to dig up and reinvigorate, kind of, because I mean it's like I'm just not going to be a major thing because we have Photoshop and color toning and color grading, all that sort of thing now, but you can just fix it in post. But it would be an interesting skill to kind of dig out and play with and reimagine with LED values. RGB values could be cool. Yeah, but like you say, it's definitely a lost art. Just getting to end the bits here. We're just the finalists of the 2025 Abbey Road Music Photography Awards. This was kind of cool, actually. Some really good shots in here. Definitely worth having a look at. I know a bunch of you shoot music or stage or theatre stuff, so definitely worth having a look. Some of these are really cool. Yeah, especially a lot of them where they're kind of at the at the event or on stage. Like, that's wild, man. I mean, that's a very cool shot, but like it's more of a fashion shoot than anything else. But yeah, some really cool shots here. Definitely worth a look if you're into that sort of thing. Yeah, because a lot of these guys are trying to do it, you know, literally live as the performance is happening. Losing my voice, getting too excited about color again. Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, take a look. Speaking about judging and photo competitions, I've been asked by Capturing Wow, which is the Indian, like a major Indian photography awards thing. They've asked me to judge the competition later this year, so that'll be interesting. What do we got here? Jury? Is that me? Should be, yeah, there I am. Look at that. How dare you say that photo is old? So like, yeah, I mean, yeah. So the judges last year had some big names last year for sure. I think Peter Hurley's there as well. So I was like, okay, give it a look. So we'll see what the what this will turn into. I'm hoping it's not going to be days and days of judging thousands of images, but I shall certainly keep you posted on how that goes. So just wrapping up here then, we did a chat with Renee Robin from Boris FX. She came on the stream a few weeks back now and kind of took us through the power of Boris FX. A bunch of you had already used it and played with it. They have a demo free trial as well, and very, very powerful piece of software. So they're used for like major motion picture, but they also have one for us stills guys over here, right, which is the optics version. A bunch of you already use it and have played with it. Check it out. They have a demo that you can use it for like 15 days or something, maybe a month or something like that. If anybody's done it, yeah, free trial there. Let's have a look. I don't know how long you get it. I think it's a month or something, but I could be wrong. But yeah, you get to trial those. And if you are interested and want to kind of sign up for it, then by all means use this link, which is an affiliate code that will get you a bunch of money off. I forget what it is because I'm a terrible affiliate, but it will save you money on all of them. So I tested it. I think Wibbly's tested it. Jamie's tested it as well. So it does work. If you have any issues, speak to Jamie. But yeah, it works on all of them. So they have a subscription model. You can just pay monthly, or you can just buy it outright as well. So by all means, use that affiliate code to save like 15% or something. Yeah, something like that, or 20%, something like that. Yeah, 15 days. Thank you, Jamie. Yeah. I'm not taking a new headshot of you. Come on, Jamie. Come on. That's a good point. You could do it. You could do it. You think I need to wear like a full latex suit, or you think I could do it without that? I know how much you love using those tubes. Yeah. But yeah, if you missed the live stream where Renee was showing us what this could do, very, very powerful piece of software. So if you're at all interested in post pro, whether it be adding effects or like doing cosplay work where you're kind of adding in very stylized and dramatic effects like lightning bolts and snow and all this sort of stuff, then this is the software that the big boys use. So yeah, so even if you have no intention of kind of forking over any cash, download it 15 days to try out. It is a bunch of fun. Yeah, it is. It's good stuff. Yeah. You only get a discount once you check out. Also, make a note that because it's an American site, it does add sales tax on top. Thank you, Jamie. Yeah, it's all good advice from my manager there. Okay, let's just kind of close out the news section. Last week I kind of spoke about this kind of style that I was playing with. A lot of you know I've been messing around with LEDs, you know, as opposed to flash and that sort of thing. And one of the things that LEDs kind of allows you to do is shoot ambient, right? Makes sense. And whenever we shoot ambient, we can shoot with far longer shutter speeds and just kind of play with it a little bit. And this shoot I did a little while ago now that I just did a article on, which I'll show in a second, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And essentially all I'm doing is I'm using two lights, and I'm using this kind of mirror tree, as I've called it, to then fire lights into with different gels over the mirrors and that sort of stuff to get this very, very, very cool effect. Oh, here you go. Actually, we were just talking about this. Infamous Playboy photographer shares his 44 light setup and states, "I like to shoot with available light or every light available." Right. So like you can see, look at the mess in there. Right. Now, this is a lost art as well. People are used to shoot like that. This is before skin retouching, right? So you were photographing a girl completely naked and you needed to make her skin look amazing in camera. This is a lost art. This is unbelievable what they used to do. Anyway, so yeah, you can see the setup here, right? So you just got like a hard light over here firing into these mirrors, right? And I've just got a fill light here, which I can change the color of, and you know, get these very kind of wacky, very wild effects. And the reason I'm bringing it up was because I had a ton of fun doing this, because I think I got some BTS down here as well. Yeah, you see the bits here. So here you go, yeah. So you can see here, right? So I've got all sorts of crap, you know, on the mirrors, because the light is over here. I'm just firing. I mean, you can fire colored light into it if you wanted, but I'm firing white light into this, and then I've got different colored gels, you know, clipped over parts of these mirrors, and then what we get is this kind of resulting kind of abstract, very kind of wild lighting effect. But this was a ton of fun to play with, right? If you guys you know, bored one weekend and you want to get super creative, and I called it jazz lighting, right? Because like you can't really predict what's going to happen here. You know, you just get this out and you start playing with gels on these mirrors and moving these mirrors around, the model's moving around as well, and it was just, you know, like check some of these out, right? So just getting these, you know, just covering half the mirror, part of the mirror with different colors, you know, mixing gels and all that sort of stuff, and then bouncing all of this back onto the subject. And it was a ton of fun to play with. Yeah, ton of fun to play with. So what camera setting speed did I have here? I think I had the camera settings up here. So I was shooting, oh, there you go, yeah. So shutter speed, anything from 15th to a 50th, f2, ISO 30 to 64, one of the other reasons why I love the Nikon so much. So yeah, if you if you want to have a play with this and do it, man, it was a lot of fun. Where's this? Why is that? I don't know why that. Maybe I grabbed it from Facebook or something. Yeah. Then have a play with that. Yeah. Very very cool. And it's not expensive. I mean, you know, like the mirror tree thing that I made there is the most expensive thing. And that's just for convenience as well, right? 'Cause you need to buy the arms, and then you need to buy the crab clamps. So like these are, yeah, so each of these are like, so £19, and you get the crab clamp with each of these, right? And I think I messaged the guy on eBay and was like, look, if I'm buying 5 of these, we do me a deal, and you know, and he did. I think he threw in one for free or something like that. So so it's like it's not super expensive, but look, you know, very creative, very fun, and kind of different to the way that we would typically work, right? Where it's just like, oh, I must have the key light 45 degrees, 2 feet away, make sure that the lighting ratios are all the same. This is kind of letting go of all of that and just seeing what comes out, you know. Very, 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 very fun way to work for a change, you know. Okay, so Sins here, so yes, it's about 33 quid for the main license, so 117 total. Jamie's going monthly, yeah. Very nice guy. like the tree. It's good, man. Isn't it? Yeah, it's good. Amy, is this her real name? Is this because I only know her as Irina, which may be her model name. Yeah. Okay. So check that out. Is anything else? Anybody seen anything else? Any products released the last couple of weeks that they thought were pretty cool or interesting, or I didn't cover, or I should take a look at? And look, I'll be honest. Most of the time, it's not because I don't think it's relevant. It's because I just don't see it. So Andre, to your point earlier on about latitude and dealing with colors and that sort of thing, this is where digital really helped with the latitude, right? Because I am definitely abusing the large latitude range of the digital sensor here, because with the mirror tree, and I'm only using basically one light. I mean, I'm using a fill light here, which is the blue here, but all the other lights on her are coming from one light. So I can't manually adjust the exposure of each of these mirrors, right? So all the colors and the exposures of each of these were fairly different. So, this is where digital comes in and really helps out, because the digital, I'm able to kind of, force them into the same, because this is white light here and then this is red light here. The red light was probably like a stop darker than the white light, but because I'm using that digital sensor with that latitude, I'm able to kind of bring them back in line. So like certainly cameras with a lot of latitude make this a lot easier. I mean, you could shoot this on film, but it would be way more contrasty than it is here. Yeah. Sort of a gobo, if you like. A gobo is a gobo is going to be structured in that it's all coming from the same point, so it's kind of difficult to get much variety with a gobo. And the issues that I have with gobos is they always look like gobos, right? Like they are cool and they have their place, but whenever I see photographers using a gobo, it's like, oh, they used a gobo. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's about just trying to break out of that kind of fixed look, if you like, just kind of to get a little bit more randomness. Paul says, I've been playing with something that's a couple of years old, the Lens Baby Omni. Yeah, that thing. That's the metal disc with the magnets, right, Paul? Right, so because they sent me that for review. In fact, weird story, they sent me the prototype of the Omni years ago, and in fact I still have the prototype here, and it's like, because they gave it to me at one of the photo shows, and it was just given to me in like a glasses case. It was like the CEO of Lens Baby's glasses case, and in there was tissue and like some broken crystals, like super glued onto sticks. So they gave me like this prototype to play with, and it was a lot of fun, man. It was a lot of fun. I think I might have reviewed it. Omni. I think I did. Yeah, there you go. They did the expansion pack as well. Yeah. So this is the proper system that Paul's talking about here, right? So you've got the metal ring that goes onto your lens, right? Your lens thread, and then these balls here are metal balls, and then these are magnets, right? So you can adjust them on the on the metal ring, and then it covers the lens, right? So you're kind of shooting through these, yeah, and you kind of get these kind of foreground effects, yeah. So tons of fun. The only issue I had with it was focusing, right? Because normally if you're using crystals, like you're shooting, right, you put the crystal or whatever it is, or the prism in front of the lens, and then you after you focus. So normally like you focus and then bring it in front, take the picture, focus, put it in front, take the picture. But with this Omni ring, the issue that I had was it was just fixed on the lens, right? So it's really difficult to focus. That was kind of the only downside to it. Yeah. They did a expansion pack as well. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. How old is this, man? That was like 5 or 6 years ago. Okay, that's the expansion pack. Yeah. Good times, man. Yeah, look, you can get some crazy stuff going with it. I'd forgotten about these. Yeah. These are cool, man. Look at that beautiful color. Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, good stuff. I'd forgotten all about these. Oh, check, that's nice. What the hell that is? Never find out. Must have been one of these, or maybe it was that one there or something. Yeah. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. I'll pop those in there if anybody's interested. You having fun with it, Paul? Yeah. Can't believe I just showed you my history there. I must be losing my mind. Irina is back in the UK for a week at the end of the month. I think she still has some open slots. Yeah, Irina is great, Chris. Yeah, Irina was a phenomenal. So Chris is talking about the model that I just showed you with the mirror tree. Yeah, she's absolutely phenomenal. And to her credit, like that is one of those times where you as a photographer go, trust me, bro, like, because you look like an idiot setting this up, just draping sorts of torn bits of gels over this random mirror tree thing and going, this will look awesome, trust me. But she really lent into it because the kind of the abstract lighting, you can't just do normal posing with it, right? So she was so she was great. Yeah, really good. Could have used hairspray over the ones with the white light to take it down. Could that work? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So diffusion. Yeah, here you go. Look at this, mate. I got it all. I've been doing this a long time. So what Andre's talking about here is you just pick up like a cheap UV filter, yeah, for like a few quid, and then just get some hairspray. I just grabbed this from Amazon for like a couple of quid, and then you just basically spray it over this filter, hold it away from you, and then spray it up in the air, let it come down. You get this kind of effect on it, and then before and after. Check out, that's wild, man. Check out the glow from it. Like here as well, right? Before, without the filter. Look how glowy the Nikon is, even without the filter. It's hilarious. And then with the filter, yeah. So yeah, you just like, here you go, yeah. So without and then with, yeah, you just get this kind of cool flares. I presume that's what you mean, Andre, but obviously correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, check that out. Yeah. Tons of stuff to play with, yeah. Just trying to be more creative, but all in camera, not in post. Exactly, Paul. Good for you, mate. Eye autofocus fix it from you fancy pants with the eye autofocus. Yeah, absolutely. That would definitely fix the issue of having to focus recompose. Like us old farts. Yeah. Good stuff, man. Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm glad that fixes it. Very cool. Yeah. On the mirror. I don't know whether you would see it on the mirror, Andre. You would soften it a little bit, but I think you would. I think you'd have to add a lot of hairspray to the mirror to kind of knock it back. They use something in cinema, so they use, I forget what it's called now, but it's a special spray that they put on mirrors, which you see it in horror all the time. So there'll be mirrors, and in the background it's completely matte, like the mirror is not reflecting light, and it's because they've put this I forget what it's called now, but it basically spray that you spray over the mirror, and it knocks it back. It looks like you've got a sheet of tracing paper over it. So that would do it, Andre. Yeah, that would definitely do it, because that's kind of thick enough. But I can't for the life of me think what that spray is called. Yeah. Okay, right, let's get Oh, let's get cracking and getting backache sitting here for so long. I might have to switch to the standing desk. Old man problems. Let's give us a quick refresh. We'll go over the images you guys have been working on. Let's see what we got.